Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. And we're going to be talking about shortcuts. And Bob mentions that he's never figured out what shortcuts could do for him. So hopefully, we're going to answer that question. And bonjour, Carolyn, and buenos dias, Leslie Ann, and Stanley, and Kurt. Thank you for joining us. So, okay, I knew what you meant. So let's get started. Inspecto Cam and adjust our phone here a little bit. And so I'm getting a message that we don't have any audio. And Kurt is saying the same thing. But, okay, you can't hear anything. So let me check. So thank you for texting me. Let me check my connections here. Okay. Stay off E. Don't know what that means. Okay, we'll start over. Okay, I think Kurt is telling me that we have audio now. So we will start over. Okay. So let me back up here. And I've just turned it back on for my microphone. So we're on a slide. Can you hear me now? So I'll wait for a response. There's a little delay between the time that you type and the time I see what you typed. So let's wait and see if we are getting audio through now. According to, okay, yes, you heard that. Okay, thank you, Bob. I think we're back on track. And Leslie Ann says, okay. All right. Okay, Susan, I think everybody else is hearing us, so I'm not sure what's happening on your end, but hopefully you can hear me now. Okay, let's proceed with shortcuts. So, to recap, for those of you that didn't hear me, workflow, the backstory. Workflow started in 2015, and it actually started before that, but in 2015 it received an Apple Design Award, and then it became an Apple app. So of course they changed the name from Workflow to Shortcuts, and they acquired the company and they hired the developers, which was a good move on Apple's part. So it came out first on iOS 12 and then eventually came out on Mac OS Monterey. So what are shortcuts? A shortcut is a quick way to get one or more tasks done with your apps. So a shortcuts app lets you create your own shortcuts with multiple steps, and you can download shortcuts made by others, so you don't have to create them if you don't want to, because a lot of people have done the work for you. Okay, so to review the system requirements, you need to have iOS 12 or later. Actually, you need iOS 13 and iPad OS 13.1 to get all the functionality. And then if you have Monterey 12 or higher, and it also works, excuse me, on the Apple Watch with Watch OS 7 and higher. Okay, so I just cleared my throat. Hopefully you can still hear me. So where is that Shortcuts app located? Well, of course you could search for it. So let's go to our iPhone. And we would swipe down from the center, or if you have iOS 16. Okay, Susan, you're with us. Good. Glad to hear it. If you have iOS 16, you have search here at the bottom. So I'm swiping down from the center. And even though Shortcuts is already up there, I'm going to go through the search. All I had to do is enter SHO, and Shortcuts came up. Okay, there they are. Another way to do it would be to use Siri. So I could say, "Hey Siri, show all shortcuts." "Hey Siri, show all shortcuts." So my HomePod's answered the first time. So there they are. So this is the all shortcuts list. We can also go to the gallery by clicking on the gallery icon at the lower right hand corner. And we can go to automations by clicking on the automations in the center on the very bottom. So how do you activate a shortcut? You can go to the Shortcuts app, or you can use Siri as we just demonstrated. So let's go to the Shortcuts app. And let's demonstrate a shortcut. So here I have a shortcut for my app called Waterminder. So if I tap this, it's the second app there on the left. And it just logged that I drank 16 ounces of water. And I have 93 ounces to go. And it's 14% of my daily hydration total. So let's say we want to search YouTube. So on the right hand side, the fourth one down says search YouTube. I could use Siri to do that. Hey Siri, search YouTube. So there it takes me to YouTube, and then I can do a search on YouTube. So we'll go back to shortcuts. So you can see there's lots of different shortcuts here if you wanted to delete a shortcut. So here's one that says Pay Leanna, which that was something I used to do for my mom. And so I no longer need that. So I do a long touch on that. And then you can see the pop-up menu at the bottom. It says delete with a little red garbage can. And then it makes sure that I want to delete it. So now it's deleted. So you can hear at the bottom left, you can see there's a shortcut to join your next Zoom meeting. So I don't have a next Zoom meeting. So I could start a Zoom meeting from here, or I can just cancel that. Then the next section is starter shortcuts. So if I wanted to do a new note with a date, I would just tap here. So here is my text, and I can hit the microphone at the lower right hand corner and just dictate the note. This is an example of how to use a shortcut to start a new note with a date. And then I hit the microphone to stop recording. As you can see, dictation is working pretty well. We have some underlines here. Let's see what those are saying. So it's correcting my grammar. So I just tap on the is a example and it changes that. And if we tap on this other one, I don't want to change that one. So I'm going to just click on done. And there we go. So there's my note. February 28, 2023 at 12:14. So let's go back here in the upper left-hand corner where it says All iCloud. So this is in our notes. So to get back to our shortcuts, we're going to scroll up from the bottom of the screen. Let me show you that on the Inspectocam. So I'm going to swipe up partially and then move over one and tap the Shortcuts app. Okay, I see Leslie Ann says I don't see any of the shortcuts you show. I see Get Stuff Done, Essentials, Collaborate. Okay, so try hitting shortcuts at the bottom left-hand corner and see if that works. That should get you back to all shortcuts. It sounds like you're in the gallery. So let me know if that worked. So here we are. So we're going to go back to the gallery. Well, while we're here, let's just go. So we've got some more categories here. These are shortcuts that were added by third-party developers. Here's one for American Airlines flight status. Here's one for Write in Day One, which is a journaling app. Here's one for Create a New Draft in Drafts, which we covered on a previous episode. That's a note-taking draft. And, okay, so Leslie Ann only sees American Airlines. Okay, well, it may be that you don't have some of these others. I would think that you would see the voice memos one down here. So I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. So now we can go to Gallery by touching the lower right-hand corner. And I'm going to switch over to the actual iPhone here. And so to get to the top here, let me show you that. This is a trick that works in a lot of different apps. If I touch the time in the upper left-hand corner, it will automatically scroll to the beginning of the page. Like that. Isn't that wonderful? That works in most apps, especially helpful if you're down in mail and you want to get to the newest mail. You just hit the time in the upper left-hand corner and it scrolls up to the top of the mail list. Okay, so you can see up here when we're in the gallery, we have some other categories. We have shortcuts for accessibility, fun and games with Siri, starter shortcuts, great with Siri, wonderful widget shortcuts. And so I touch that one. And so you can see a lot of these are repeated. So here's one, NPR News Now. So when we touch that one, it says it plays the latest news update from NPR News Now podcast, which is updated every hour. And it gives us the instructions down here at the bottom. Say, hey, S-Lady, NPR News Now to run it. So we click on the blue button at the very bottom that says Add Shortcut. And now we have that shortcut. So now we can test it out. Hey Siri, NPR News Now.
Okay.
What's happening with NPR Podcasts? More neighborhoods.
More identities and more perspectives.
The more the world that you hear.
The more you hear the world as it really is. NPR Podcasts. More voices, all ears. Find NPR wherever you get your podcasts.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A new House committee focused on the U.S. relationship with China kicks off with a primetime hearing tonight on Capitol Hill. NPR's Deirdre Walsh reports that it's one area where there's a bipartisan approach.
Wisconsin Republican Mike Gallagher chairs the panel created to explore and address the economic and national security threats from China. He says a recent news story made that job a little easier.
A Chinese spy balloon drifting over the country and circling our nuclear ICBM facilities has a way of bringing the threat close to home.
This hearing will feature testimony from two former Trump administration national security officials, as well as the head of an American Manufacturing Association and a leading dissident who will talk about China's human rights record.
Stanley
Both Republicans and Democrats view this committee as a place to come up with policies to help the U.S. compete with China. Deirdre Walsh, NPR News, Washington.
I understand
President Biden is in
that you're
Virginia Beach
hearing
today.
the
NPR's Matthew
NPR.
reports Biden will use the trip to again draw contrast to House
So,
Republicans' spending priorities.
Biden has
We're gonna
repeatedly pointed
go
to various
to
Republican proposals to make big
podcasts
changes to popular government programs like
by
Medicare.
searching.
He's also highlighted long-running Republican efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act as he attempts to draw contrast with the party that controls the House. Biden's Virginia speech is expected to focus on the ACA, even as Democratic control of the Senate and White House ensures it wouldn't be repealed. The speech comes roughly a week before the White House releases its annual budget proposal. The document is likely to carry more outsized influence than usual this year, as Biden tries to contrast his administration's priorities with House Republicans.
And you can
Scott
see
Detrow,
at the
NPR News,
bottom
White House.
here,
Target stores are offering a cautious
It
outlook for the
says
coming year.
NPR
NPR's Scott Horsley
News.
has the latest on the retail market and the housing market.
Target
And
reported
I'm
better
gonna
than
hit
expected
the
sales
pause
performance for the final
button.
months of 2022, but the retailer says
Two
the sales environment is still very
vertical
challenging.
lines.
Target says
and now we lost the audio. Okay, so I realized that NPR was at triple speed, and I don't listen at triple speed. Let's see what it said at here. I listen usually at, well, it's at double speed. You see in the lower left-hand corner it says 2x. So that was at double speed. I usually listen at 1.75. And it's something that once you do that, your brain will accommodate that. It'll get used to it, and you can save time listening to podcasts by listening to it. You can start off with maybe 1.5 or 1.25, and then work your way up to 1.75. And that's a good way to save time when you're listening to podcasts. So now I'm going to swipe up from the bottom partially, go back to shortcuts, go back to gallery in the upper left-hand corner, and swipe here. So you can see we got more categories. And then Pomodoro is a time management technique where it starts a timer where you concentrate on one task for a certain amount of time, usually 20 minutes, but I think you can change that. Here's a nice one, scan a QR code. And another one here under Essentials, where was this taken? So you can find out where a picture was taken. Here's one, running late. If you're late for an appointment, you can send a message, text message that you're running late. So you can see there's all sorts of shortcuts in the gallery. But wait, there's more. So there are ready-made shortcuts on the internet. So let's go look at some of those. Here's one place. So this is Routine Hub. So just routinehub.co is the URL. And then you go down here to show me the shortcuts. Click on that. And we're in the middle here, so let's go to the top. So there's the top. And so here's some new shortcuts. They have shortcuts here for the Mac as well as iOS. And we'll talk about shortcuts on the Mac on a different program. So you can see here on the left, we scroll up, they have a whole bunch of categories here. So let's go to where I did news. Let's try shopping. Who doesn't like to shop? So you can see there's a bunch of things here. You can create an Apple Card. You can calculate sales tax by zip code. You can create a grocery list organizer. You can look at a price history on Amazon for a product. You can get the best deals with Camel. You can go to your App Store wish list. So you can see there's all sorts of pre-made calculators. You can see here there's a total of 6 pages in this category. So that's one place you can go. Another place you can go is mattcasalini.com. So let's scroll up to the top of that one. So he has shortcuts for his shortcuts. Now the first part of this, don't get discouraged. It's talking about an app called Ivory, which you probably don't use. So if you scroll down here a little bit, you'll get to some more useful ones. So here's open Apple Music holidays. Turn on the Fireplace app on your Apple TV. Pull up lyrics on your Apple TV. Some things here for Christmas. Here's an interesting one. Send thank yous. It asks you to pick from your contacts and then shows a messages window for each so you can send them a thank you note. Here's check the weather forecast. So let's just do check the weather forecast. So right here in red it says get the shortcut. Okay, and then you would click on add to shortcuts. However, we'd want to do this on the iPhone. So let me get to that website on my iPhone. Okay, so we're going to go back to well, we didn't want to do that. So there's Matthew Castellini. And we're going to click on shortcuts and folders to get to the main list. Here we go. So you can see here, these are lots of different shortcuts. And here's learning more about shortcuts. So let's use this one. This is Open Overcast. So we're going to click on Get Shortcut. And we can get access as a member. Well, I'm actually not a member. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm a member of Overcast. So, yeah, I don't think I am a member of that plan. I'm not paying him $50 a year. So let's go back and let's cancel that and go back to Safari. And let's go back to the menu and the shortcuts catalog. Here we go. So let's go to his shortcuts library, and we can sign up for his newsletter. So he has some categories here. He has some news about shortcuts, and many of these are free. He does have a members only section. And he has bundles of shortcuts. And let's see if we can find something that applies to. So here's his Ivory. Okay, let's see. So here's shortcuts for handling your speakers, your AirPods, text editing, dictation, note taking. Let's go to voice memos. So sometimes you're maybe driving and you think of something and you want to make a note. So we want to record a voice memo. Here we go. Record a voice memo. So we're going to click on Get Shortcut. And wait for it to download. And then you can see the brown button here that says Add to Shortcuts. It's going to open voice memos and immediately start recording audio. So now we're in the Shortcuts app. We're loading it. Then we're going to click on the blue button at the bottom. It gives us the command for Siri. We're going to add that shortcut. So now we can say, "Hey Siri, record a voice memo."
Turn on voice memos shortcuts with Siri.
So this is a one-time
Turn on voice memos
function to turn it on. I just had a great idea. I didn't want to miss it, so I'm recording it in my voice memos. So there it is. Then if we tap here on the location, we can change that to a title. We'll call that Great Idea. And we're done. And if we go back here to shortcuts, you can see that record a voice memo is now in the top left. Excuse me. So that's how you can download shortcuts from the internet, and there's dozens if not hundreds of places on the internet that you can do that. Just be sure that it's a reputable website and you're not, downloading something that might introduce malware to your computer or your iOS device. So let's go to questions. If you haven't already put your questions in, please do so now in the YouTube comments. And don't forget to share the GoFor Gazette with people you know that use Apple devices. And of course, the GoFor Gazette comes to your email every Monday morning about 7. And if you haven't updated Zoom since yesterday, it's now version 5.13.9. So before your next Zoom meeting, it's a good idea to update Zoom. And if you haven't already, we mentioned this last week, but update to iOS 16.3.1 for an important security update. So let's see. So I'm glad Diana learned about the speed change, and that is very good. And Susan says, I think that before I would think of using a shortcut and then finding it, I would have done all this stuff manually. So that's true, but for things that you do frequently, you only have to set up the shortcut once, and then using the shortcut will save you time over future uses of that shortcut. So Leslie Ann and Susan have a admiration society going on here. So you're welcome, Bob, and everybody else. So hopefully this has exposed you to shortcuts, and if we have interest later on, we will actually get into how to create a shortcut. So if you think of something you think that would be a good shortcut, we could even create it live here on Go for Lunch. So just email me that request, and we will line it up for a future presentation. So Bob is on top of the Zoom update. Okay, well, if you don't have any other questions, thank you again for attending today. And if you do have questions later on, of course, you can always reach me by email or by telephone. And that contact information is coming up next. So have a great rest of your day.